if you sharpen your axe by taking care of your body, how much more capable are you going to be at all the work that you have to do? And Ecclesiastes acknowledges that that's wisdom and that skill to know when is the time to go sharpen your axe. Like, how much care do you need to have over the tool?
Welcome to the Bacon Bibles and Barbells podcast. I'm Coach Justin, joined by Coach Emily and Coach Amanda. And we were just informed, because we didn't know, by Dave, actually. Now, it's funny because now some people are going to be like, who's Dave? I was like, well, Dave is the one that founded the podcast and used to be on every episode. He hasn't been on in a little bit, but he does some of the back-end production stuff for us so that it shows up on all the podcast streams and things like that. That last week was episode 250, so this is 251. So that was kind of a cool milestone. We've the BBB podcast has been through like a few different iterations over the years, and this is what we're doing for now. But yeah, if you guys go listen back, even a couple of years ago, pretty much every episode probably had Dave in it, and then he's sort of been sporadically. Since we started doing it with High Calling Fitness and things like that. So anyway, today we are talking about the false divide, the physical versus the spiritual, and specifically addressing like people that feel guilty about like exercising and going out of their way for health. Like it's a waste of time, waste of effort. It's selfish because that's time that you should be spending serving others maybe, or those kinds of concerns that I think some people sometimes have. So we're going to step through like where some of that might come from and what might be beneath some of that, and try to like obviously in a certain sense counter some of that and like offer some like better direction potentially as far as like how you can reframe and rethink about just taking better care of yourself. So, probably most people listening to this aren't struggling with this. So if you do know somebody that is struggling with this concept and have said anything along those lines, feel free to send it to them. And so it might be thought-provoking, just so maybe they can rethink maybe taking better care of themselves. So, and I think that it comes down to there's a certain degree of simplistic nobility about like, oh, well, if I'm working on myself, then I am, not focusing on others. And then there was the whole, I think this, like the term self-care, when did that start? Like 2019, it was like right before COVID, maybe 2019, something like that. And that was kind of like, it was just came off really selfish to me. Yeah. That was silly. And a lot of it was also like, it felt like Gen Zers, like learning like, oh, I should actually like, take care of certain things as an adult. And this is super, like it was super special to do like basic adult things. And then it turned into like, make sure you have time for yourself every day, just for yourself. Like what we're getting at is not that. This is not time for yourself per se. You are generally going to be by yourself, doing an activity by yourself, or there might be other people in the room, but you're not like when you lift weights, even if you go training, unless you're like with a training partner who's doing the same movements you are, you're not training with anyone. Like when Emily and I train, we train at the same time. And I think, Amanda, you do with Anthony too, right? You guys generally train around the same time?
On the weekends, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's similar for you guys. You're generally training together. You guys have your individual things you're doing. So you're there together, right. But it's not like you're not training together. So it's still... You're
working out at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're at the same time. You're in the same building. you drove there together, but that's about where the togetherness ended. Other than what I would say is the more important fact is that you guys are both mutually pursuing taking care of yourselves in a particular way. So all that to like say, yes, it is time that you're by yourself, sort of, not directly serving somebody in a direct sense. And I think that on the surface, that's why it kind of appears selfish. But at the same time, nobody objects to like taking showers because that's selfish. Because like you're by yourself in the shower and you're not washing anybody's feet. How spiritual is that? So we have to like we have to approach it with some degree of like real like, okay, there could be nuance and discretion here, understanding it's not about the thing, it's about what the thing does for you. We're not on here trying to convince people to work out because working out's so great. It is, but really it's because of what you get from the workout and what it makes you more capable of doing and becoming as a person. Like we don't like, Emily made some great notes here. Like you don't like pray, read, counsel, think, argue, evangelize without a brain. And if your brain is sitting in a soup of really bad chemical signaling and, unhealthy, you will not be as capable to take care of others. So, and part of what makes this unique, because people like to compare to like ye olden days in the Bible times and stuff like that, where people were more active. They only had sources of food that were natural. And so as long as there was plentiful food supply, people didn't have the opportunity to eat poorly. People didn't have the opportunity to scroll on their phones or sit in front of the TV or do much, like just sitting around indoors doing nothing. They were outdoors. They were in the hot and they were in the cold and they were moving every day. You couldn't really be sedentary and survive, up until 100 years ago, for at least for almost everybody. So some of what we're addressing is somewhat unique to our time. And part of the point we're going to be getting across here is if you live like a typical American, it's almost impossible to live to your fullest potential or capability because you're going to be tired all the time. You're going to be inflamed. You're probably going to be obese. You're probably going to not live as long. And you're going to be generally physically incapable long before you have to be. Because we all have,
Right.
I mean, the genetics are real. Like sometimes there's just something that's going to kill you, of course. But you don't have to like embrace a slow decline that starts at 30, like a lot of people are doing. Because in your 20s, you can get away with like anything. But after 30, that's sort of like the consequences set in. And I think a lot of people lose hope and they think it's like unavoidable that there's a severe decline sometime in your 30s and it's like accepted because it's the default. One, it doesn't have to be that way. And two, if you make yourself more capable as a spouse, as a parent, and at your profession, whether that's as a homemaker or you're engaged in, providing as a husband or whatever else, if you make yourself more capable of those things, that makes it inherently not selfish.
Yeah, there's just this huge gap and separation between what people are viewing as spiritual and like where does physical fit into that? There's just this huge gap that's there. But then you kind of have to dig into that a little bit. Like, what do you mean spiritual? Is that like only the time you're reading your Bible? Are you praying? Are you thinking about these things? Are you taking care of your kids?
Yeah.
Like that's not where that's not the whole limit there. Your physical capability allows you to serve better.
Right.
It allows you to serve your kids better. It allows you to sleep better so that you can even pay attention to your Bible more in the morning. Like there's a lot of overlap there. I mean, that might be a silly example, but probably not. There's probably people who are not reading their Bible or studying because they didn't sleep well. It's pretty common, but
very common.
There is overlap. There's not a separation there. There's a call for us to be good stewards, and that includes of our own bodies. And having a capable body makes you be a better mom, dad, husband, wife. And those are things that do make your spiritual life better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the church is partly responsible for this separation that seems to exist because I think finally the tide is starting to turn. Even the past 5 to 10 years, I've seen people coming around to the fact that what we do with our hands does matter. What we do with our physical bodies does matter. But for years and years, the whole time I was growing up, the most pious, holy thing you could ever do was become a pastor or a missionary overseas or something like that. And it's almost like I have friends who are convinced that being a homemaker, or their husbands, like, being like doctors or things like that, just weren't spiritual enough. Like the words,
Like they settled.
yes, like they settled. Like the words I heard often was like, I'm not doing anything for God when I do that. And it's just like such a total misconception. It's like, okay, so raising children in the glory and discipline of the Lord is like to be faithful Christians and have generations upon generations of faithfulness is not doing anything for God, or like serving faithfully to build a community and a culture, like in a place, like that's not doing anything for God. Like so much of what I heard, at least in like traditional Baptist evangelicalism, was if you're not a pastor, if you're not at a Bible study, if you're not a missionary, that you are lesser than. And I've experienced that as an adult as well, where it's like, say I have to miss a ladies' Bible study to help Justin with a work project or something. That's very looked down upon, because like I'm not doing the quote unquote spiritual thing, even though what I'm actually doing is building a household,
Yeah, but ladies' Bible studies are usually gay, so that's an easy one to address.
You won't hear that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it exists everywhere, and I think people don't recognize it because the church has, like, I don't know if it's just leftover Gnosticism or if it was something else in church culture, but like I grew up at least hearing that message. I didn't recognize it as that message until I was, an adult, but I grew up with that conception of what kind of work was better or more spiritual, and I had to work that out more as an adult.
I think it's a combination of Gnosticism and false pietism. So Gnosticism, like, among other things, but the big thing that's, I think, carried over into the modern church today is just this separation between the spiritual and the physical is inherently sinful. This is what, certain Greeks believed. The physical is just inherently evil and sinful, must be destroyed, should be disregarded, and there's really no redeeming it. This, despite the fact that as Christians, we know Jesus had a physical resurrection, and that mattered a lot.
Yeah.
And also part of like our eternal state we'll have physical bodies that are perfect. So like all the ladies are going to look hot and all the men are going to look handsome. And that's what God wants in a perfect state. So don't tell me it doesn't matter. Like just on the surface of the thing. But then the other component is the false piety, and piety is this thing that's kind of like humility. If you think you got it, or you start talking like you got it, you're probably the last person that has it. Like it's like you can't really say you're humble, because if you say you're humble, then you're probably proud. And piety is a little bit similar, because it's like in the Venn diagram of what is piety and what is humility, they overlap a bunch. And in this, conceptually, this does too. And so it's a false pietism of like, oh, I'm not focusing on the spiritual things because they're less important, or they're not important at all. I want to focus on these purely spiritual things, as if reading your Bible all day, every day is the highest spiritual good you could possibly attain, while neglecting everything else in your life. Men, it's time to reclaim the strength you were made for. Introducing the Crusader Transformation, a 90-day barbell challenge with the limit of 5. We'll keep this small so you can build a brotherhood with 5 like-minded fathers who value strength as much as you do. Together, we'll forge competence, discipline, and resilience. If you sign up now, it's only $800, which is 25% off the regular price. You'll train with purpose, stay accountable, and receive personalized instruction. Join the Crusader Transformation. Train for strength, lead with purpose. Sign up at crusader.fitness. Because your family still has to eat, your kids still need instruction, and you still need to do all the other things that God's put into your life. Like, what are you going to say? Like that you can't like go serve someone in church because you're too busy reading your Bible. I mean, where does it end? So it's a very weird sort of circular thing that makes no sense once you sort of like turn it over and look at it.
Yeah.
Piety is the actual pursuit of godliness, And that outworking looks differently for different people. And having real piety doesn't come from pursuing piety. It comes from pursuing righteousness. And you kind of end up being, pious potentially. Just like as you pursue godliness and as you become more wise, you should become more humble. But not because you necessarily pursued humility. It's just that that's sort of what happens as you become more godly and righteous.
Yeah. What you were saying actually pertains to a lot of things. Like if you think you have it, you probably don't. I remember my older son, when he was younger, he asked his grandpa, am I cool? How do I know if I'm cool? And his grandpa said, if you're asking the question, you don't have it.
Yeah.
You're not cool.
True.
But that's true of a lot of things, like you said, piety and humility, especially. I also think a lot of this comes from people feel like everything they need to do has to have a purpose. There's this constant purpose seeking. And this is actually, I think, part of the reason we've gotten the whole 30-year-olds who live in their parents' basement thing. Part of it is laziness. But sometimes, and I've seen this a lot, is like somebody won't take a job because, it seems menial. It doesn't have a purpose that, I'm not doing something beneficial or, looking good. And so they just won't get a job. And I feel like people do that even with working out. Well, like, what's the purpose of this? Like, I don't like doing it. I'm just not going to. And it causes damage in the long run because they're always trying to find something that has a purpose and only wanting to do things that has a purpose. And ultimately what that leads to is, honestly, a lot of doom scrolling. People who are doing this whole, I'm not going to do it if it doesn't have a purpose thing.
It's not like they're
what
even
are you doing with your hours though?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not like people are usually redeeming that time that they would have spent working doing something else that's meaningful.
Right. Totally.
And the thing is, even if you're like the like very stereotypical like armchair theologian reformed bro that like never does anything and you work a dead end job because you're so pious, it's the same type of problem. Like, what are you going to do with all the books you've read? Like, how is this benefiting your family? How is this benefiting your ability to serve in your church? If it's just like something you use so that you can argue with other idiots online, then it's actually more of a stumbling block. If anything, you should go find something else to do and burn the books.
Yeah, I mean, we already know our purpose anyway. Like, our purpose is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, and let all that we do be to glorify God. So I think that's really the only question that you need to ask: is what I'm doing glorifying God and taking care of your physical body so that you are capable to do things is a way to glorify God. So we've had episodes on like when it becomes too obsessive or whatever, when it takes away from that. But like, I promise you, if you're someone who doesn't really like to work out and you're going to go do it to the glory of God, so that you are healthier, then you're not going to fall into that camp of who's taking it too far to be obsessive.
That's not the danger you need to worry about. It's like women being too afraid they're going to get man muscles.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the part of stepping back from what you said earlier is really key. The like doing something with a purpose. You should do everything with a purpose, but you should not expect it to have a direct purpose that is super simplistic, right? Yeah. We don't like, if you homeschool and you teach your children about math, you don't look at that and go, oh my gosh, this is not glorifying God. I'm not teaching them about Jesus at this particular moment. No, you're giving them a real life skill because they need to be able to add, subtract, and multiply.
Well, math is God's world. Like, He made it.
Well, that's this. I'm just making the point that like you can't look at everything from the lens of, and the other thing too is, to be honest with you, most people, you could just tell by looking at them, they've already got an idol in their life. So like, I don't want to hear it if you're making these statements and you're overweight, you've already got the idol like sitting there right there above your belt line. Look at that and go, okay, are you really trying to avoid all this out of a real sense of trying to glorify God when God lists among a number of other heinous sins that their God is their belly? Like, this is that. I don't know. It's just the rank hypocrisy is just like,
you're lying to yourself. Like,
it's delusional. Yeah. And the other thing, like, referencing all the way back, if that's you, you're probably tired all the time. When you eat food, it makes you feel tired, which should basically never happen. Food should actually give you energy. You wake up tired, just as tired as you probably went to sleep. You have brain fog. You're not as capable of being present. You get home from work and you're just totally beaten, overwhelmed, and done, and can't imagine doing anything else. And the same thing for the homemaker, that by the time her husband gets home and she's been at home with the kids or whatever, she's got nothing left for anybody because she's totally spent. If that's you, that's an indication that there is a health problem, and it is impacting your ability to do what you've been called to do. That's why, look at my stinking shirt. High Calling Fit. That's why we made the stinking brand. Like, that was behind the whole thing. It's not so that you can lift heavier weights. Yes, that's fun. Yes, we love it. You're going to spend the same amount of time, so you might as well lift heavier. And yeah, guess what? It still is fun. But that aside, it is for an actual purpose. The purpose being so that you get better at whatever you've been called to do. And if you're anything like the person I just described, which is what 90% of Americans or more probably, that are over 30, then you should take a look in the mirror and go, wow, maybe I could be more capable if I made a few adjustments.
Yeah.
And maybe those adjustments would help me pursue godliness and righteousness in a more effectual way so that I can have something left for my kids when I get home, or something left for my husband when he gets home, and not feel like you're just tired and dragging all the time, and then go down the same road that most people go down and get one prescription. Then a few years later, it's another prescription, and the dosages of those prescriptions go up. And a few years later, it's another prescription. And by the time you're 60, you're on like 10 different drugs, and you're dealing with the side effects of all of them, which are making the whole thing worse. And by the way, half the drugs they prescribe for most people don't actually extend your lifespan anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
True.
So the real key to all this is you live in a physical body. You can't just look at it and go, oh, well, I shouldn't pursue any of this. When Paul said that physical training is of some value and godliness is of value for all things, that's actually because some translations have said godliness is of greater value, whatever. It's talking about the things it's valuable for. God, if the more godly you are, the better you will be at everything. Yes, totally true. Physical training being of some value, it's contrasting how many things. So let's talk about our Venn diagrams again. If godliness is good for the whole picture, I know, right?
I know, I'm making fun.
So physical training exists inside of that as a much smaller circle, or a circle that's still pretty big, and we don't who knows, who cares. But I would say that today that circle is bigger.
Yeah.
Because when Paul was around, people got their steps in. People didn't have processed foods to tempt them. People had to move. They had to do all sorts of things. And even at his time, when people got adequate physical movement from their profession, from their day-to-day lives, when they didn't eat processed foods, when everything they ate was fresh, except for the things that were preserved, and the things that were preserved were done in a much healthier way than we typically do today, he still says it's still valuable for some things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The purpose of that passage wasn't to put down physical training. It was to lift up godliness.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you call yourself a godly person if your God is your belly and you are not capable as a mother or father, or as capable as you could be, because you've been putting too much bad stuff in your face and not moving enough?
Yeah.
Show me where the godliness is in that. Show me where the godliness is in habitually arriving home, or in the evenings, not being able to do anything with your children. We're just going to eat pizza and watch a movie because that's all I've got left. That's, I'm not saying you can't ever do that. We do that sometimes. But if you can't play a board game with your kids, or read with your kids, or pray with your kids, or do any of these other things because you're just so stinking tired, or it's even a significant barrier. I get some people work crazy hours, and I'm not talking to you, so it's okay. The rest of you, you should have something left in the evening.
Yeah.
That's not the way we were made to live when were past 30 or 40 or whatever that number was that it hit you. You don't have to be that way.
Yeah.
for real.
I think that some of where the pushback is because the people telling those who are not working out and eating healthy are obviously those who are. They're people like us who are already coaches. Of course, we're going to suggest that. People who are fit influencers, people who are actually competing in sports. And I understand like it can come off as, salesy, like come over here with us and have our coaching, which I would love to coach you guys. But like there's a reason that we encourage this is because we know about it. We know the benefits that it's given to us. We've known the benefits that is given to our clients, and don't have to start competing. Like you're not going to just people compete because they like to do it. That's not who we're talking to.
Competing is different from fitness.
Yeah, you're
very
gonna
different.
not just
Competing's
go to
a
the gym
hobby.
and be like, exactly.
Yeah, competing is a hobby, and it's fine if you love it. Like two of the three of us have done it. Probably going to do it again. Super fun. Emily doesn't care. Like she doesn't really want to. Just not into it. Like she loves to support me when I do it. She's just not driven to compete. It's not her hobby.
I'm driven to be a snack mom.
She's a great handler. But she doesn't care about that stuff. Okay. I mean, I'm not worried about being an idol in her life. Fine. Like you don't have to go compete. You don't have to do powerlifting or strongman or bodybuilding per se. What we are saying is you got to look at what you eat, and you got to look at how much you move, and you got to look at exercise as a truly redeemable good in your life.
Yeah. I've actually had people tell myself and Anthony, like, oh, I should probably work out. I don't want to look like you guys. Like, I don't want to go that far. And I'm like, I wasn't asking you to. So
yeah, people say that to me too.
Just go on a walk with me or something. Like that's all we need to do. Let me help you with maybe food choices you could do better. Something like that. Like I'm not asking anybody to be extreme, and I don't want anyone to hear fitness influencers telling them to get into the gym or coaches telling them to get into the gym and hear that. Because that's not what we're saying. We just want the best for you so that you can live a life that glorifies God in a way that you can do it more capably longer. So, and I'm not even just talking about serving in your church. No, my in-laws have taken very good care of themselves physically, and in their late 60s, get on the floor with the kids. They get up, they go walking, they do things like that, and that's what I want more people to be able to do. I don't want you to be the armchair grandparent. I want you to be the grandparent that can get out and do things. That is the capability we're talking about.
Yeah. And you will have more fun and have more joy when you're able to do that. And the other verse I wanted to bring up real quick is Ecclesiastes 10:10. And it says, if the axe is dull and its edge is unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. And I liked thinking about this verse in terms of physical fitness, because I feel like what you're doing when you care for your body is you're sharpening your axe. You're taking that break to be like, oh, I am dealing with a dull instrument and this is going to take all day. But if I sharpen it for 10 minutes, like I'm going to be able to chop down this tree so much more efficiently. Think of all the trees in your life, if you want to stick with that metaphor or whatever, like if you sharpen your axe by taking care of your body, how much more capable are you going to be at all the work that you have to do? And Ecclesiastes acknowledges that that's wisdom and that skill to know when is the time to go sharpen your axe? Like how much care do you need to have over the tools and the gifts that God has given you? And if you steward those well, it will just keep paying out in all of the work that you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of sums up what the whole thing that we're getting at. And as far as like, for people like, like Amanda and I who have competed, and a lot of other like coaches that have competed in the past or maybe still compete or whatever that may be. Part of why a lot of people who coach have a competitive background is because it's kind of like with like automakers and R&D. For those that don't know, a lot of guys are gonna be like, yep, that's totally how it works. Like sport vehicles that major automakers make, they usually don't make money on them directly. They make money indirectly. They're basically R&D projects that partly pay for themselves, because when you push something to the max for performance, you learn a lot about how the fundamentals work. And that's kind of the way it's worked for us. We've discovered things about how the human body works, particularly when we're pushing to our limits. And it also helps us come alongside people, not just with technical knowledge, but with an understanding of what it's like to do something that's really stinking hard. It's allowed me to offer more value, I think, because I've never been obese. I've never had to like go through that, but I have gone through fairly extreme times of eating like a lot of calories or little calories, and training and things like that at various stages, because I've had specific goals. So I know what it's like to not like what you're eating. I know what it's like to train and kind of hate it in a way. Like when you're giving it everything you can into a powerlifting meet, those last 4 weeks of training, they just stink. Like you're probably hitting PRs, but you almost don't care anymore because you're just beat to the ground. And same thing, I'm sure, for like Amanda would say, I'm sure you're getting close to a bodybuilding competition. The last like 6 weeks are just brutal because all you think about is food. Training stinks. You have no energy to train, but you're still going to train just as much. You have no energy for anything. All you want is food. You don't like you dream about food. I've dreamed about food when I've been losing weight, and I haven't been below 10% body fat since I was probably in my early 20s. So like we understand what it's like to be at those extremes of discipline. It allows us to come alongside people, encourage them properly, hold them accountable properly, because we've had to have those conversations with ourselves. And that's part of like the equipping process. That's why you see coaches that do this stuff. I've had the same thing Amanda's had. Well, I want to train. I don't want to look like you, which like first, thanks. But second of all, like it doesn't just happen. Like my size happened because I wanted to be strong. It wasn't because I was really pursuing size, but I wanted to be really strong. That involved putting muscle mass on. And I'm still actually not that strong if you like compare me to like actual big time powerlifters. I'm just really strong compared to normal people.
Yeah.
But I sacrificed a lot to get what I could out of my body and use the tools that I have. That's really all it is to us. It's not that we're trying to encourage people to compete. We train people that compete, and it is a lot of fun because it is fun to redline a client. It is cool. It is cool to help to come alongside and push them. That is for sure. But the encouragement to the normal person that comes in and just wants to solve their bloat issues, their hormone issues, their weight loss issues, and things like that, that can be just as rewarding. Like it's just as rewarding for me to have a client get a medal or a record as it is to wake up to a message from a client saying, I just did this activity with my kids that used to throw out my back, and now I did it yesterday and I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really, at least from my perspective as a coach, like both are just as rewarding, and I'm happy I got to help that person and be a part of that journey in their lives.
Yeah, non-scale victories. Those are the best.
Yeah.
I love getting those. Or just, quality of life victories. It's not the same as just, I've gone down 50 pounds. When you're actually able to do something like with that, having lost 50 pounds, that's where you really notice it. It's not just the excitement on the scale. It's, oh my goodness, I was able to do something. Like
right.
walk around without knee pain or something like that. Those are the things that are going to make you really feel more capable, but they do take work to get there. And, just like we know how repentance works, the farther away you venture off the path, the harder that journey is, or the longer it is back. It's the same thing with your health. If the longer you let it go off the rails, the harder that journey is back. And so we're trying to encourage people, like wherever you are now, let that be the end of that part, and then come right back with the purpose of being understood as to glorify God and to be capable of more things for longer with a better quality of life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It goes back to where we usually go, do you want to be the capable grandparent or the incapable grandparent? Like what you just said, Amanda, about your in-laws. They can play with the kids without like really any inhibitions. There are a lot of grandparents that they can't. They like a lot of grandmothers can't even stand and hold a baby.
Yeah.
And so instead of being able to be a blessing and serve, they actually become sort of this person that needs to serve at a key time when mom could maybe use the help. And like how much is that limiting your interaction with your grandkids someday? And by not taking care of this, you're basically saying that you love eating junk more than you love your grandchildren. And is that the legacy you want to live and leave?
Yep. That's
so
a
on
hard
that
pill
note,
to swallow.
I think but that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
Is like, that's why this matters. This doesn't matter because of numbers in the gym. They're a means to an end. This matters because this makes it so that you're more able to deal with life storms. And yet there's all the other stuff too. Like your odds of surviving a cancer diagnosis go way up depending on how much muscle mass you have the day you receive that news. How much muscle mass you carry is one of the strongest factors. Like statistically at like just at a very high level across the board, how much muscle mass you carry the day of diagnosis is a huge factor, one of the biggest. It's also one of the biggest factors in predicting how much longer you have to live, how much lower body mass you have that is muscle tissue. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the biggest predictors of how much longer you're going to live.
Yep.
So that's why it matters. But sticking on some sort of weird false piety, the physical doesn't matter. Tell me it doesn't matter when you can't play with your grandkids, when you got nothing left to talk to your kids because you're so tired, when you got nothing left for your wife when you get home from work because you're just so incredibly tired. You feel like you just want to sit there and veg out because there's just nothing left because you gave everything that you had at work. You are capable of more than that. It shouldn't be that way. I've been there. There was a season of life where I would come home from work and I'd have to just lay in bed for like 15, 20 minutes. And then I could kind of like go and do what I had to do for the evening. That was in my 20s. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much worse it would have gotten in my 30s and 40s. Probably a lot. Mm-hmm. And that is the direction that everyone in America is headed if you just live a typical American lifestyle. You have the prerogative for the faithful Christian today is to fight against the entropy of the world that's around us. And a big part of that is what we eat, how much you move, are you getting outside, all of those types of lifestyle factors. Mm-hmm. So it is something you can focus on that matters. And it's of more benefit right now than what even Paul was saying in 1 Timothy. Mm-hmm. Just because of modernity and how much it sucks for our health.
Yeah.
So I hope that was helpful to a lot of you. Encourage those of you that are already convinced. And for those of you that were like, I hope that for those of you, it might have given you some things to think about. If you do want to turn your life around because you're dealing with the maladies and infirmities of modernity, whether that's brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, whatever it is, a lot of these things are fixable far more than we usually like to think, far more than most doctors even, not that they're willing to admit, because they actually don't know, because it's not how they're taught. If you're looking for some help there, we can help. Book a meeting with us, highcallingfitness.com. We can give you hope, and we can give you a plan and direction. Until then, gains of grace.
Gains of
Gains of grace.